Welcome to the Monday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Monday morning. Howdy, everybody. How's it going, Astro? I am feeling a bit under the weather. So please excuse the low energy. From a cool, sunny London. What? There is such a thing? We've got quite a bit to go through. Quite a bit, if I do say so myself. Hey, Dr. Dragon Rider, how's it going? Howdy, howdy. I have off until 4:30, then I realized I work 10 hours a day and it made me sad. Sage. Jesus, 10 hours a day? That's wild. Hey Alio, how's it going? New Dell computer working nicely for streaming. That's good. That's very, very good. Celticaboo, how's it going? Good morning from Wisconsin. I hope that you feel better soon. Yeah, we're hanging in there. Thank you. Did you hear about that tornado in Iowa? Yes. I think I just caught a headline, I believe. That is absolutely wild. How's it going, Dendera? I didn't know you were sick. Me neither. Me neither. I'm not sure if it's just like a small cold, because I do feel better than I did last year. Yesterday. Um, but it could have just been simply the allergies acting up. My parents have a blooming, beautiful blooming not avocado. Now my mind is slipping. Mango tree. There we go. They have a beautiful blooming mango tree, and that could be the source because I have really bad allergies that happen, and this could be the result of that because I don't feel any other symptoms other than non-stop sniffles and sneezing and just overall like fog. So could just be as simple as that. Hey Darknet, is there nuclear war yet? No, I don't think so. I think we would have known. My mind is bankrupt over a feeling of the horror. Well, trust me, there's a lot of horrors to go around, as we will unfortunately find in a second. But yeah, so I think it's possible to blame the blooming of the mango tree as one explanation. The other explanation is that I'm having a cold, but I don't seem to be experiencing anything other than really bad sniffles. I was watching the news and I could literally see how they were trying to portray a no-fly zone as something less aggressive. Yeah, a no-fly zone is unacceptable. That's just not going to happen. Or it shouldn't. And that's a huge reason why the average American calling for it, misunderstanding it. Yeah, well, leave it to the media to yeah, there's just no way that there's going to be a no-fly zone. Unless you want to end this all in a nuclear holocaust. And I also feel the sniffles. Nah, I doubt it. I mean, I guess it's possible, Dr. Dragonrider. Hey, Skidadeer. Right, no fly zone means nukes. Like, I don't get it. Like, people don't... Jesus Christ. Folks, we cannot get ourselves involved any further than what we've been doing. That's it. That's it. Yeah, because they are all being told that that's not really a big deal, when in reality, we see time and time again, even more experienced analysts are saying that this is just not an acceptable path forward. Obviously, so it's not going. I don't think it's going to happen. Oh yeah, 100%, Darknet, 100%, 100%. American media literacy problem will literally get people killed. It has. It's actually kind of the opposite of the Middle East. US will do this, but this time it's Europe taking the lead. Yeah, the problem is the difference that, and this could possibly be due to the way the media covers things, but the only difference in terms of the severity is the fact that there cannot be a situation where two nuclear powers are trading blows. That's just not a thing that can happen. Simply because, once one goes off, everybody is done. That's it. It's gone. Once somebody makes that decision, it's pretty much all no holds bar. Whatever anyone says, this conflict could change on a dime. I agree. That's what's keeping people on edge, I think. That's really what it is. The average Ukrainian are also calling for it, but that's because they literally have been bombed. Yeah, of course. I understand why they might be calling for it. I understand that they want relief. I understand that bombing civilians and bombing your country being bombed may cause you to act in this way. But ending the entire planet in a nuclear war is far worse. It's far worse, I would say, because then nobody, and I mean quite literally nobody, wins. So, yeah. I understand from their point of view, but Jesus. Okay, folks. Yeah, so I think that the last update, that last update from what's been going on, is basically that they are declaring a no-fly zone. Sorry, they're declaring a ceasefire so that civilians can, again, we're gonna retry that ceasefire again, so that civilians can evacuate. I think that Russia has been calling on any power that implements a no-fly zone as participating in the conflict, so therefore it is a declaration of war, and I think that's where we're at. Lots of bombings. I think they ended up taking over that last nuclear station, the biggest one. But that's where we're at. Lots of civilians fleeing. Overall, the disaster continues. Not much has changed other than that, I think. How many interviews can they give? I don't know. I don't know. There's been lots of anti-war protests in Russia. I think that the last figure I was reading, there was definitely thousands of people arrested overall in Russia for anti-war protests. There have been strict new laws enacted to basically crack down on these anti-war protests. So yeah, they seem to be going full all in. The Russians are more against the war than their protests are huge. Yeah, if you go with the glimpse of that we've been catching, more or less, blips of the protests in Russia, it's huge. I think they said they're more at 4,500 at this point. It's quite possible. For sure, thousands have been arrested, and I think that that's a pretty accurate assessment. Russians are more against the war than the Americans. I agree. Especially I would certainly hope so. Either way, horrifying stuff, folks. Horrifying stuff, but we're here. Continuing the horrifying stuff, this may be a bit of a content warning. I would certainly make sure to notify you folks. This may be a bit of a content warning. This is a very dark topic. So just a heads up. It's a bit of a dark topic. Once again, content warning, content warning, content warning, content warning. I'm checking out the war subreddit. I've been watching. Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of places to kind of, be updated on that. How bizarre is it that we can literally watch on our phone a complete conflict happen in real time? That's just bizarre. I was concerned about the nuclear plants in Ukraine, but since I learned that Israel regularly bombs and takes Iraq's nuclear plants, what? Is that a thing? Yikes. Screw that. Jesus. There's a guy in every squad with a nice camera, it seems. Wow. Hey, spread it forward. How's it going? Desperate Afghan sells kidneys amid poverty and starvation. This is just depressing. Jobless, debt-ridden, and struggling to feed his children. No, oh man, I'm gonna butcher this. Noruddin felt like he had no choice but to sell a kidney. A growing number of Afghans are willing to sacrifice an organ to save their families. This practice has become so widespread in the western string of Herat that a nearby settlement is bleakly named One Kidney Village. And I wonder why that could be. I had to do it for my sake of my children. Jesus Christ. I didn't have any other option. Afghanistan has been plunged into a financial crisis following the Taliban takeover, worsening the already dire humanitarian situation after 20 years of war and US occupation. Good job, guys. Look at all the freedom we've done. Look at all the freedom we've brought to these people. Look at all the freedom we've done. More than half of the country's 38 million population suffers an acute hunger, with nearly 9 million Afghans at risk of famine. Jesus Christ. Foreign aid that once propped up the country has been slow to return in the wake of US sanctions. Damn. The country's economy is near collapse after international financial institutions cut funding and the US froze Afghanistan's assets. US President Joe Biden, thanks Biden, earlier decided to withhold about $7 billion in Afghan assets, repurposing half the money as compensation to the victims of the 9/11 attacks. Holy yikes. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. So basically, you are willing to force, which by the way, to my understanding, the majority of the 9/11 hijackers, weren't they from Saudi Arabia? I know, again, this story is like kind of fuzzy in my mind, but why are you first of all punishing an entire country that had absolutely nothing to do with it at all? How do you know that each one of those people had anything to do with anything? How did you know that the Taliban themselves had anything to do with anything? How? Why are you punishing starving 20 million people, like Darknet just said? This is unbelievably gross. That and the fact that they also collapsed pretty much the entire country's administration in the space of a few days. There's so many missteps. Yeah, missteps. That's a pretty generous take. Jesus. 20 million people. There are people who are literally forced to give up a kidney to feed their families. And you're repurposing $7 billion, which could be potentially used to help these people. I know $7 billion in the grand scheme of things isn't a lot. But you're taking away that money to give to the victims of the 9/11 attacks who had who these folks, these citizens, had nothing to do with. This guy over here, Noruddin, had nothing to do with it. Why is he being punished? Why is he being forced to quite literally give up a piece of his body to feed his family? This is on so many. Yeah, most of them are even born in 2001. Like, what? This is a nightmare. This is dystopic. This is a freaking nightmare. This is twisted, man. This is twisted. Aid agencies and experts have called for lifting sanctions against the Taliban, saying the measures are worsening the humanitarian crisis. This trickle-down effect has... Yeah, this is the only way trickle-down economics works, but in the reverse, twisted way. Has particularly hurt Afghans like Noruddin, 32, who has quit his factory job on his... Yeah, I mean, like, that's about my age, actually. I could never fathom that. His salary was slashed to 3,000 Afghanis, about $30, soon after the Taliban's return, mistakenly believing he would find something better. But with hundreds of thousands unemployed in the country, nothing else was available. In desperation, he sold his kidney as a short-term fix. I regret it now, he said outside his home where faded clothes hang from a tree and a plastic sheet serves as a window pane. I can no longer work. I'm in pain and I cannot lift anything. Jesus Christ. His family now relies on his money from his child son, who polishes shoes for 70 cents a day. My goodness. My goodness. Jesus. Some for as little as $1,500. Oh my God. This is twisted, man. In Afghanistan, the practice is unregulated. I bet. There's no law to how to control these how these organs can be donated or sold, but the consent of the donor is necessary, said Mohammed Wakil Matin, a former top surgeon at the hospital, the northern city of Mazar-i-Sharif. Sorry, I can't pronounce any of these names, so I'm just going to try my best. Mohammed Basir Osmani, a surgeon at the two of the hospitals where the majority of Herat's transplants are performed, confirmed consent was the key. Okay, but like, what could, I mean, yeah, you are obviously signing off consent forms and all of this stuff, but like, is it really a choice? Is it really a choice? You're literally starving these people, forcing them to either A, starve, or B, give up a kidney to feed their families. And even then, I mean, that's just a one-time deal, right? You get paid for that, and A, the obvious medical repercussions, possibly down the line as well. B, he's not able to work anymore because you literally effed him to the point where he's gonna have to stay laying down, recovering, all that. And is now currently relying on child labor for 70 cents a day. Or now, wait, was it 70 cents a day? Yeah, 70 cents a day. That is twisted, man. UFC chick actually swayed some Russian minds and they love it. Amazing work. It's a POW saying this. He's confessing it's wrong and he said we would do everything. Yeah, sure. There's plenty of those, Dr. Dragonrider. For sure. I mean, the money and sanctions are egregious. Yeah. Egregious are one way of putting it. The US pulled out fully know well that the Taliban would move in and yet still feel adjusting. Yeah, like it's not even punishing the Taliban like directly. It's literally forcing these people who had nothing to do with it. Nothing. These are just regular people. This dude was like some factory worker, I think. This guy was just some factory worker. Yeah, he was a factory job worker. That's just so insane. That's just twisted, man. We have never investigated where the patient or donor comes from or how. It's not our job. The Taliban did not respond to requests by AFP or comment on the practice, but Osmani said the country's new rulers plans to clamp down on the trade and are forming a committee to regulate it. I mean, yeah, but the point isn't the operations or, practice of this. The point is that we've got a very oppressive sanctions to the point where people feel like this is the only way out. Afghans desperate for money are usually matched by brokers with wealthy patients who travel to Herat from across the country and sometimes even from India and Pakistan. The recipient pays both the hospital fees and the donor. As Azita's family had so little food that when Jesus Christ, that 2 of her 3 children have recently been treated for malnourishment. She felt she had no choice but to sell an organ, openly met a broker who matched her with the recipient from the northern province of Nimros. I sold my kidney for 250,000 Afghanis, so about 2,700. She said from her small damp room, I had to do it. My husband isn't working and we have debts. Now her husband, who is daily labor, again, just a regular worker dude, nothing to do with anything, is now planning to do the same. People are selling their kidneys out of desperation. Yeah. This is twisted, man. This is twisted. We are still in debt and still as poor as we were before. In developed nations, donors and recipients usually go on to lead full and normal lives, but after their surgery, health is usually closely monitored and also dependent on a balanced lifestyle and diet. That luxury is often not available to poor Afghans who sell a kidney and still find themselves trapped in poverty and sometimes ill health. Mateen said only some donors arrange for follow-up checks. There are no public health facilities to register kidney sellers and donors for regular examinations to check on the implications for their health. Jesus Christ. This is so hard to talk about current events without bringing this up about what America is currently doing and has done. Yeah, I mean, sure. Like, this is not to be ignored, that's for sure. This is straight up genocide. Yeah. This is Jesus Christ. This is some dark, twisted shit. Shakila, already a mother of 2, underwent the procedure shortly before the Taliban seized power, bypassing a broker by searching out a patient at a Herat hospital. We had no choice because of hunger. So, like, let me get this straight. So, America comes in, bombs them into oblivion, commits massive amounts of atrocities, and then they just decide to peace out and strangle the country to the point where people are literally selling their kidneys. Oh, the ads? Yeah. This is just wild. This is just twisted, man. This is some... We had no choice because of hunger. Yeah, and some of this already happened before the Taliban seized power. Because, we did so much freedoms. We did so much freedoms that people were already forced to live under these conditions. Even before the Taliban retook power. She sold her kidney for $1,500, most of it which went to settle family debt. Gross. If I don't sell my kidney, I would be forced to sell my 1-year-old daughter. Jesus Christ. I think that's very telling. 20 years to replace the Taliban with the Taliban? Yeah, not only that, like, what freedoms, what awesome stuff did we even bring to the table? We brought nothing but bombs. We brought nothing but bombs and genocidal sanctions. This is twisted, man. This is twisted. Yeah, pro tip, just sell kidneys, bro. Jesus Christ. Yeah, we're doing some siege warfare shit. No, this is worse than that. This is worse than that. My goodness. This is just dark, man. Because they're hungry and don't even have supplies. Yeah, I've heard some stories about that, Dr. Dragon Rider. I don't know how credible the stories are, but I've heard that some are literally selling their equipment, selling even diesel off the tanks, or I guess tanks or personnel carriers or trucks. They're selling diesel off those trucks to buy food. They're selling guns, ammunition, and supplies, like they're literally their own supplies. They're selling them because they're hungry. I've heard that before. I don't know if that's true, but I've seen multiple reports that indicate something like that is happening on there. With imperialism comes genocide. Yeah, I mean, how else? Holy yikes, dude. This is just... Jesus Christ. You can send it to me via Whispers, and we'll take it, and we'll take a look at it if we have time, Dr. Dragon Rider. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Horrifying. Horrifying stuff. This is just gross. This is just twisted. Maybe built wells and bases. I mean, the only thing we did, how much good getting involved in other countries, but yeah, Congress approves. Yeah, all of them. All of them have all of this in their hands. Have all this blood on their hands. All of them. And the fact that these people in the State of the Union had the audacity, had the absolute audacity to talk about how they care about veterans and how they care about the troops and all this other stuff, had the audacity to clap and to be so like happy about what's going on, when in reality all of this, from the veterans who are on the street to literal people to the tune of millions, are being strangled by these sanctions. That's all on them. All of this. 38 million people. No, sorry, more than half of the 38 million people. And out of that, 9 million of them are at risk for famine. All of this is on their hands. And these are innocent civilians. These people had nothing to do with anything. Very slow signs of progress in the country. It'll start to fall apart as soon as the US started talking about pulling out of the mid-10s. To resolve any problems takes a long time. Yeah, and they weren't really interested in doing that, right? But it could have happened. They needed help and they needed stability, resources. Yeah, like, I would say yes. Yeah, all of that. A crime, yes. We literally had a video posted by Darknet where, was it Condoleezza Rice? Where she was like, oh yeah, well, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, or, sorry, the invasion of a sovereign country is a war crime. Damn. Explain this to me. How do you say that with a straight face? Jesus Christ. There is literally, legitimately no excuse for this. There is no excuse for this. Republicans and Trump blame Biden for Afghanistan all the time. Well, he has his share to blame too for being for it at the time. At the time, I believe he was in favor of it. So was Nancy Pelosi and all the Republicans and all. This was all. They're all complicit in this one. All of them. All of them who were there in 2002, I believe. 2002, 2003. Anybody who was in that time frame pushing for this. Anyone who was pushing for this is to blame. All of them. This one has no single person This one has no single person. No, Dimesh. We're talking about the initial Iraq war or Iraq-Afghanistan war. That was back in 2000 something. I want to say 2002, 2003. Beyond belief, but the US could have at least went a way of fixing its reputation by actually exploring better options. Way back in 2016, the Taliban were saying they would have wanted a UN peacekeeping corps in place. Yeah, but the reality is it was all effed from the beginning. It was all effed under very dubious pretext. It was all effed. It was all botched from the beginning. I don't believe that for a second that they had good intentions, to be quite frank. Because why are you putting such very, very weak, dubious pretexts to go into a country that had nothing to do with anything? Why would you if you had anything? What intention did you have? Yeah, I mean, that's the only explanation. As it's revenge. And then, you try to put some little plausible deniability and put some little sugar sprinkles, but that never goes away. That stain of millions and millions of people, that will never go away. That will never go away. Oh yeah, the pullout. Everyone but Barbara Lee voted for it. Right, that's what I'm saying. Every single one of those people have a stain, have blood on their hands. Every single one of those people. Every one of them. And then to have the audacity to come up to Congress and say that, how we, care about our troops, how we want to expand mental health services, how we're so awesome, and how much we believe in freedom and democracy, while killing and strangling millions, tens of millions. What's half of 39? 38. About 16, 17 million people, strangling them into famine and death. Right, 2003. The initial phase was about revenge. I think so, the first couple of years, but afterwards, definitely an attempt to make strategic gains because of what they had obtained, which was oil. But not much better because I think maybe that was the sugar on top. Maybe. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. People are dead regardless. Regardless if there was some holier than thou initial, I don't care, initial what is it, intention. I don't really care. I don't care. I don't care if the initial intention was actually to do something good. The effect and the consequences are still very quite real. And what are you gonna do? Tell that starving kid that no, it's okay because we had good intentions at the beginning, or no, it's okay. We afterwards we kind of came down from our fog of revenge, and we had actual good intentions. How are you gonna tell that kid that, or those people who are forced to be selling their bodies? It doesn't matter. It does not matter whatsoever. The reality is, all this is happening, and we had a huge hand to play in it. Actively, still. As of last week, this just came out when? 28. That was literally last Monday when this article came out. So, yeah. Anyways, all gross, all dark and twisted. Jesus Christ. I also don't believe letting them sort it out themselves works either. Well, the problem is we went in the first place. If nobody wants to give aid without some set terms and conditions, I mean they get X amount of resources. Yeah, I don't know. It's just very hard to believe that, like, you know, at this point, I mean, to me, it's all, like, it doesn't matter. I don't understand why we went in the first place without any, you know, legitimate reason. We caused this problem, and we failed to do anything about it. We shouldn't have never been there in the first place, to be quite frank. The only thing that should have been happening is humanitarian aid. That was, yeah. Let's turn our attention to, the real, takeaway from this article, I think, is just how brazen special interests are, and how brazen corporations and special interest on, or I guess court members of the government is really the TLDR of this article. We should probably bought Bin Laden from the Taliban, made them an ally, and saved some money and lives. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. It's all nice and all cool to sit back here and say I've got the solution. You know, 20 something years later down the road, I don't know. Maybe we should have kept to ourselves and figure out what to do, instead of acting the way we did. I don't know. Yes, fluffy animal time. Before we get to this article, I'm just going to do this right now. Oh, this is a good one.
A kingfisher has just flown into the kitchen.
These birds are so beautiful.
Hang on, dude. Let's get you out of here. Let's move some flowers. Hey, it's okay, it's okay. Oh, dude, there's a cactus there. You're gonna be getting all over it. It's okay, it's okay. Out you go, out you go. No,
Poor little dude.
Come on, mate, that way. Hey. I can't open the window more because he's not going to get out of that. Triton. It's okay. Triton, away. Whoa. Hey, dude, come on. I know, this is terrifying for you. Come on, I'm gonna remove some of the pots. Let's get everything off the windowsill. Dude, go this way. No. Oh, come on, mate, come on.
Aw, poor dude.
I know. Oh, look at you. You're terrified, you poor thing. It's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna put my hand out and I'm gonna try and get you. I get it. It's terrifying.
Oh, poor
Oh,
thing.
sweetheart, you are so scared. Come on. Oh. 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 It's okay. I've got you. I can walk without a crutch. It's all right. It's okay. It's okay.
One thing you can guarantee about
a
Dodo, you always get
I know. There you go.
some good content. Hey, Heat, how's it going?
I don't know. I'm just gonna try and. Are you hurt? Are you freaked out?
Poor little dude.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, you got this, little bird. You got this. Hi, I'm back again. I'm gonna try and pick you up. Yeah, I know, but I want to check.
I don't know if you've guys seen like
okay?
kingfisher birds like actually try to hunt or fish, I guess. They are one of the most majestic birds. I love the coloring and pattern.
Yeah, I'll put you on your back. Okay, so legs all look good. Oh, you're okay, aren't you? Yeah? You're just in shock, sweetheart.
It's so tired, maybe.
You in shock? It's okay. Yeah, I'd be freaking out too, okay? I'm gonna put you over here by the river, yeah? Okay, I've got to walk with a busted leg and a kingfisher in my hand. This is insane. Okay, hang on, Mr. Kingfisher. We're gonna get you. We're gonna get you closer to the river, okay? I just don't want cats to get you, yeah? Look, dude, the river. It's okay. It's all right. I got you. So this is my new friend. His name is Kingfish. He's beautiful. Just gonna stroke his little head like that. And I'm gonna try and put him somewhere so that he's not injured or anything. I've checked. He's not got any, like, cactus barbs in him from... Oh! Hey, look at that! He's fine!
Yay! Look at that. Sometimes they just take, especially if they're all in shock. Sometimes they take a little bit. Yeah, the kingfisher is fine. Sometimes they take a second, especially if the poor thing has been like in shock. They usually like lay still for a while. I remember when I had to, when I found a poor little lizard inside one of the pots. That poor thing looks like he was stuck there for like a day or two. He was completely shocked. I don't know if he was like almost dead or just shocked into not moving, but I gathered him up. I got him some water. And got him some food, some lizard food, and within an hour, he was off. He just scampered away, just like this little bird. So yeah, sometimes they just get like super shocked, especially if maybe he like hit the window or maybe he got like spooked. I don't know, but either way, I love these happy endings where the animal just flies away. These are some good feel good stories. Basically the situation that's going on right now. Many animals have a dead... Yeah, that's true. That's right. That's right. Before, some do, yes. Before the Great Milky. Before the Great Milky, which was my dog for 16 plus years. That's a good meme. Before, when he was alive, there was a possum that happened to come to our yard, and Milky must have like scared it or something, because the possum played dead, and of course Milky wasn't gonna hurt him. Milky doesn't really hurt. Never really was aggressive dog or anything of that mode. But yeah, the possum was playing dead for hours, and then we went up and tried to see if it was okay, and it was already gone. It was gone. Chalk is so weird, it can likely save us and can kill us. Yeah, it just depends. We all have that kind of... Well, we can all have that possibility, right? That was a good meme. Alright, we'll continue. I think that the TLDR of this article is to just show the brazenness of corporate donors courting governmental officials. Private off-the-record gatherings of conservative leaders and wealthy donors convene in this week of Sea Island with appearances by a Biden White House official. Nice. And several critics of President Trump. Trump was not invited to the exclusive event, which would be attended by some of the Republican Party's biggest donors, according to people familiar with the events. The Conservative American Enterprise Institute annual World Forum this year will be held at the Cloister high-end hotel complex in Sea Island and feature many invite-only discussions, meals, and access to miles of private beach. This is how they get courted. This year's forum, the schedule for this year's forum was obtained by CBS News. The Center for Public Integrity, which is a nonprofit for watchdog that focuses on corruption and abuses of power, has described the gathering as a secretive event. Nice. Where industry titans and GOP mega donors mingle with mostly Republican power players at an exclusive, quote, off-the-record retreat. Past attendees have included billionaires, executives from global manufacturing, energy, the fossil fuel, and financial companies. The makeup of this year's conference reflects AEI's drift in recent years, while the nonpartisan but historically conservative group has previously supported aspects of President Trump's agenda. Of course, the aspects that they support being the ones that enrich them. Many of its scholars have become critics of the former president. Scholars? What? Really? Scholars? Okay. Have become critics of the former president, particularly after he refused to concede the defeat in the 2020 election. This year's guest list also underscores how some leaders inside the establishment wing of the Republican Party and their allies on the right are increasingly eager to move on from Trump and loosen his grip on the conservative movement. Except that's not what's happening. One of the key speakers will be Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who has been working behind the scenes to recruit candidates who come from a more traditional Republican mold. Okay. And which one is that again? Show me the traditional Republican mold. Both policy position and rhetoric as he works to reclaim the Senate majority as this term in this midterm elections. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, who Trump has harshly criticized for refusing to endorse his efforts to decertify Biden's 2020 win, will also speak at the forum. Instead of celebrating Trump like the CPAC, this year's AEI World Forum will feature Democrats. Nice, bipartisan corruption. You love to see it, folks. For instance, if you've ever taken away in a tornado, going into shock may have saved you from tensing up and breaking bones while being taken away, whereas you'll be relaxed and in shock which will keep your muscles loose, but if you get shocked while entering a very cold and fast-moving river, well, good luck. Hope you brought a buddy who doesn't go into shock as fast. Jesus. One of those Democrats is Brian Deese, Mr. Biden's top economic advisor, of course. Deese is slated to appear in front of the World Forum audience on March 11th, giving the White House a rare private platform in front of influential GOP donors and business leaders. Nice. These are all great memes. Deese will be in conversation with AEI's James Patakis for breakfast discussion and interview with the Director of National Economic Council. Two people familiar with the event noted, AEI has previously hosted Democrats at the World Forum, including economic officials from the Obama White House. Good memes, ladies and gentlemen. Good memes. Yeah, maybe Manchin and Sinema will be there. I think the U.S. is going to lift sanctions on some countries just to take oil because it looks bad if we buy from Russia. I don't know. Jesse Lee, a senior communications advisor to the National Economic Council, said in a statement the Biden White House has successfully found common ground, like bipartisan infrastructure law. Yeah, we did it, guys. We found bipartisanship in the just bare minimum of what government should be doing. And competitiveness legislation by reaching out to stakeholders across the spectrum. And by stakeholders, they mean, like, you know, the people that matter, the wealthy. We'll continue to talk to anybody with an interest in collaborating towards our goal of building long-term growth that benefits all Americans. And by that, they mean whatever strengthens their pockets. A spokesman for the AEI declined to comment. A spokesperson for Trump did not respond. Same thing. Whatever. This is currently led by Robert Doar, a mild-mannered Republican policy expert on poverty, who has worked with Republicans as well for Michael Bloomberg. Nice. Billionaires. A billionaire working together with a Republican policymaker who's currently a Democrat, but has in the past been registered Republican and independent, or worked with Bloomberg administration when Bloomberg was independent and the mayor of New York. In 2019, this World Forum drew attention when it was reported by then Vice President Mike Pence was sharply questioned by former Vice President Dick Cheney about the Trump administration's foreign policy. Dick Cheney sharply questioning Mike Pence about foreign policy. Can you imagine? That's a good meme. Highlighting how various players in the AEI's orbit have long been uncomfortable with the elements of Trump's populist and nationalist policies. Really? It's unclear if Pence was invited to the 2022 event. Conservative Trump critics will also be featured during the various Sea Island session this week. AEI fellow and veteran columnist Jonah Goldberg, who recently departed Fox News, is listed several times on the schedule. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, a vocal critic of Trump. Hogan will also be there. Hogan has expressed interest in running for the 2024 GOP presidential nomination. Good luck. You are not going to get it, because despite all your efforts, unfortunately, no matter what, it seems to me like Trump has a very good hold on the Republican Party. Non-compete video is relevant. Okay, we'll take care of that in a second. Yeah, political chameleons. The Trump allies will be present as well. So, like, all of this means nothing. Yeah, this whole thing, like, the TLDR of this entire, like, of this article is just to show, like, the interconnectedness of wealthy interests and government. That is the TLDR.
You see this black box right here?
Stop trying to sell me stuff. Products for patriots.
Vote blue no matter who. If you don't vote for Joe Biden, you're supporting fascism. So all we got to do, see, is we just got to get Joe Biden in the White House, then we can push him left.
That's what every single dad blasted Dem socks spammed all over the internet back in 2020, and now here we are halfway into Joe Biden's term, and I don't know about you, but I haven't seen much in the way of pushing Biden left. from that crowd. In fact, I see Biden and Super Cop VP Kamala Harris pushing the liberals to the right, which is no surprise since that's their job and has been for as long as they've been in the DNC. See, there's a reason Joe Biden was chosen as vice president for Barack Obama back in 2008. See, back then, Obama was actually seen as a pretty radical progressive. Hard to believe that now, I know, but it's true. Trust the lure of an elder millennial. And Biden was...
Well, he was perceived as a progressive because he spoke like one on the outside. He spoke like one on the outside. And it's like, the argument isn't you're supposed to vote blue no matter who because we can push Biden to the left. I don't think that was ever going to be a realistic goal. However, at the time, I mean, that is the choices that we had to make. And here we are. And just to be clear, Biden is not above criticism. He's in fact the president and therefore should be just as scrutinized.
Picked for VP because he's really friggin' conservative, and the powers behind the throne thought that he would help settle the nerves of all the blue dog Democrat types.
The president, I think, must finish his job, and that is he must engage in a personal diplomacy with key members of the Security Council to pass a second resolution setting a deadline, authorizing the use of force if necessary in order to disarm Saddam Hussein.
Disarm.
We want as many countries as possible helping us in this decade after Saddam falls.
Oh yeah, we did so well. We did so well. All of this is on people like all of this that we talked about, especially after that first article. All of these motherfuckers have blood on their hands. Obama was a moderate? Yeah, kind of. I mean, he, like, on the outside, he seemed pretty decent, but, like, unfortunately, once he actually got into power, was not very, it was very underwhelming and kind of depressed a lot of the action that could have happened. And here we are.
Get their help afterwards, we need to sign them up at the front end of this process. And getting them to sign up will be much easier if we have a second UN resolution. But the most important task, in my view, for the president now is to inform the American people about everything that may shortly be asked of them. Be straightforward about the commitment that the American people are being asked to shoulder. For no foreign policy can be sustained, no matter how well-informed or well-intended, without the informed consent of the American people. And at this point, there is no such informed consent. The president has to...
Without the informed consent of the people, which I now have to manufacture. Because of reasons.
Explain to the public that we are about to embark on a costly and complicated effort, which will require not only the risking of thousands of American lives in the undoing of Saddam, if necessary, but will require tens of thousands of American forces to stay in Iraq for an extended period of time. And the American public, I believe, will, if asked, front end give their support, but only if they're informed ahead of time.
Anyway, it's now 2022, and Biden hasn't closed the immigrant concentration camps. There are still kids in cages today, which is also no surprise since Biden himself was a key architect of the concentration camp system when he was vice president.
We'd like to start today by going back to what many people, including President Obama, are calling a crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border. There, thousands of undocumented and unaccompanied children are being held in detention centers. The Border Patrol estimates that 52,000 unaccompanied children, mostly from Central America, have been apprehended trying to cross the border just since October. The problem has become so serious that on Friday, Vice President Joe Biden met with Central American leaders in Guatemala to talk about the issues that are said to be driving this surge across the border.
I can tell you Vice President Biden, when he was...
This is almost indistinguishable as to what's happening now.
Down there, that was one of the main objectives of going there, was to speak directly to the people of those three countries, to let them know that once the kids do get here, they're going to immediately be put into deportation proceedings.
They are probably what you would expect for something called a holding cell: concrete walls, concrete floor, concrete bench, single toilet back in the corner, glass window in front. The problem is that with so many children, they're having difficulty processing them quickly enough and moving them on. These Border Patrol stations are ill-equipped to hold anyone, much less children, for a long period of time.
We are still bombing and killing civilians in foreign countries without any declaration of war and barely any peace
That's
coverage.
true.
More people have died of COVID under Biden than under Trump in the same period of time, and public health measures and mask mandates are being loosened and dropped left and right with absolutely no stimulus checks from the Biden administration. Meanwhile,
That's true.
economic protections for the working class have been all but eradicated. We
That's
haven't closed
true.
Guantanamo Bay or the illegal occupation of Cuba. The sanctions are still going on. Yeah, so much for pushing Biden to the left. But this recent statement in Biden's State of the
That's
Union
true.
address is proof positive that there's absolutely no hope for the Biden administration moving left at all.
We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police.
Oh God,
It's
this.
to fund the police.
Oh my God, this one section was unbelievably like. And the thing is, you know what's really aggravating about this whole thing? Do you see any Republicans being like, "Wow, damn, we finally found some common ground with the Biden administration, so we're gonna work together and pass things that actually meaningfully impact the American people." No, you know what happened? They're still crying about how he's trying to defund the police and how he's a radical socialist. Like, Jesus Christ. As if Biden's fault Trumpsters won't get vaxxed. Yeah, like, I kind of disagree with that assessment. You know, obviously attempting to, you know, already, like, the things that already set us in this motion was pretty much done deal with the Trump administration. But most of this has been very spot on. Most of this has been very spot on.
Fund them.
Fund them.
Fund them.
Look at them. They're all clapping, and then they turn around. Look, all of these people are clapping. The Republicans are clapping. All of these people are clapping, and then they turn around. And then they turn around and say how Biden's like a radical socialist attempting to defund the police. They're still saying that. There's nothing you can do, my dude.
Fund them with resources and training. Resources and training they need to protect our communities. I ask Democrats and Republicans alike to pass my budget and keep our neighborhoods safe.
That's right. Biden wants to give the murderous and abusive and overtly fascist cops of the USA even more money, with no indication whatsoever that he's going to offer any additional funding to improve
Mitch is the one person who doesn't agree.
In the USA. And just look at the standing ovation he received from his fellow Democrats.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I don't know about
saying.
you, but that was pretty gut-wrenching for me. It just proves even more what we already knew, that everything every single politician in the USA said during the 2020 uprisings was simply cynical lip service. And again, this should come as no surprise. Remember that Kamala Harris was a dirty federal prosecutor, and remember that Biden was instrumental in promoting the super predator narrative that led to mass incarceration of black people back in the 90s. He also supported that legislation.
What?
I hope this crime bill, when it passes,
Yeah, the crime bill was atrocious. There's still repercussions of this today.
the
Hey,
Biden
sis cat, how's it
crime bill,
going?
as it becomes law, God willing, I hope that we will have ended once and for all this notion that is a hangover from the 60s, that somehow Democrats are weak on crime and Democratic presidents are weak on crime and Republicans are tough on crime. The truth is, every major crime bill since 1976 that's come out of this Congress.
The truth is, I like the idea of more police and more prisoners for filling up that private prisons.
Every minor crime bill has had the name of the Democratic senator from the state of Delaware, Joe Biden, on that bill. The liberal wing of the Democratic Party is now for 60 new death penalties. That's what's in
Jesus
this
Christ.
bill. The liberal wing of the Democratic Party.
The liberal wing of the Democratic Party? Really? The liberal. I mean, what a misnomer, right? That's kind of a weird saying, right? Liberal. Because, like, you have this perception of, like, liberal, libre, kind of free. Ah, yes. The liberal wing is in favor of 60 more death penalties. Jesus Christ.
Party has 70 enhanced penalties, which my friend from California, Senator Feinstein, outlined every one of them. I gave her a list today. She asked me to go in there
Nice.
to be
Who, by the way, is still around today.
sure, every one of them. The liberal wing of the Democratic Party is for 100,000 cops. The liberal wing of the Democratic Party is for 1,000 new state prison cells?
Yes.
The liberal wing of the Democratic
more
Party.
cells. He's the most progressive president in U.S. history. True. I have to laugh because if I don't, I'm so mad that corporations are not making profits off our prisoners, which there should be more. Yeah. Hey, Pump Dragon, how's it going?
Party ain't the old wing I knew. So if that's what he defines as the liberal wing of the party, then I suspect I would hate to see the conservative wing of the party.
So Biden calling for more funding of the police
That's not
is
a good...
just the sort of flagrantly right-wing and anti-black policy that Joe Biden's known for if you do any research into his background at all.
That's
and there was
not a
never
good
any
argument.
meaningful defunding of the police in the USA to begin with. In fact, the total amount of funding for US police budgets is now higher than when George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were murdered by cops. So it's not like he's asking for more funding to compensate for all the defunding we did. No, he just wants to shovel even more money at the overfunded fascist.
Well, I think like for the most part, despite, you know, all the protests and despite all the calls for any amount of changes to the police system or anything like that, that never came to fruition, save like a couple of places who tried. That never really came to fruition, to my knowledge. I mean, unless I'm missing something, there was no like massive movement in any capacity to like even reform or even address the problem to begin with.
Just police. Cops don't solve problems, they cause them. Police like to pat themselves on the back for standing up against violent crime, but cops collectively spend only about 4% of their time on what they themselves call violent crime. Cops love to make you believe that they protect your property from theft, but did you know that cops steal way more property through civil forfeiture than all burglary crime in the USA combined? And even that pales in comparison to theft committed by employers. Companies stealing money from employees is the worst and most prominent form of theft in the USA by far. Yet employers are almost never arrested or prosecuted for this prolific criminal activity, which inarguably does severe damage to the livelihoods of the working class.
But that's the good kind of theft.
And then there are things like illegal pollution, illegal evictions, fraudulent foreclosures, and other crimes.
All of which have massive negative externalities.
Cause untold suffering, but rarely lead to arrests and convictions. I mean, hell, I bet you didn't know that banks make about as much money in fraudulent and illegal overdraft fees as all combined.
Yeah, that's a good
crime.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Can somebody? I've never understood this. Yes. So we as the banks understand that you have no money. So because you have no money, and we know that you have no money, we need to charge you money. Yeah. That makes so much sense. Yeah, no one cares when you steal from poor people, right? Because that's the A-OK.
The USA every year, but you don't see mass incarceration of bankers, do you? Cops also manipulate statistics regarding crime. They don't even count violent and sexual crimes which they themselves commit. For instance, 4% of prisoners and jail inmates are sexually assaulted every year, with the majority committed by officers. That's very nearly 100,000 sexual assaults in jails and prisons in the USA committed every single year, most of them committed by cops and prison guards. Cops also have a disgusting financial incentive to ignore sexual assaults and focus on low-level arrests. I can't even really talk about this absolutely horrifying problem on YouTube due to terms of service, but if you want to learn more, check the link in the description that starts with how to lie. I promise you'll be sickened by what you find. That said,
remember folks, numbers don't lie, but I can make them say what I want them to say.
Even if funding the police did somehow reduce harm in our communities, there's no indication that crime is surging in the USA, except I guess maybe the crime committed by cops. And there's no such crime surge which would warrant increased funding of the police. It's bizarre that Biden's calling for more money going to the cops right now. The cops cause more problems than they solve, and prisons do not reduce what we call crime by any measure. And it's clear from looking at things like employers stealing wages from employees that the very concept of crime itself is a doctrinal propaganda concept used to oppress certain demographics while ignoring the harm committed by the ruling class. If you don't know what doctrinal language is, there's a link in the description that will tell you all about that. TLDR, doctrinal language is basically just when people use words.
Yeah, like, so I don't think that like prisons, the current prison system does not solve crime. The current prison system does not solve crime in any way, shape, or form, nor is it really designed to, from my understanding. The prison system in the US isn't really designed to deter or, I guess, prevent crime. It is very punitive in nature. It is very punitive in nature, and is vastly different from a rehabilitative system that's implemented elsewhere.
Words in a certain way to shift the narrative and make you think what they want you to think. What cops and politicians call crime is really only a very small part of the harm that's done to our communities. A lack of healthcare, hunger, houselessness,
part
and
is
other
true.
conditions of poverty lead to far more illness, suffering, and death in the USA than crime. But we don't have a war on poverty. It's also been proven that water pollution, air pollution, and fraudulent home foreclosures lead to far more death and suffering at the hands of large corporations and capitalists
That part is true.
than street criminals could ever hope to induce. Friedrich Engels wrote, "When one individual inflicts bodily injury upon another such that death results, we call the deed manslaughter. When the assailant knew in advance that the injury would be fatal, we call this deed murder. But when society places hundreds of proletarians in such a position that they inevitably meet a too early and unnatural death, one which is quite as much a death by violence as that by the sword or bullet, when it deprives thousands of the necessaries of life, places them under conditions in which they cannot live, forces them through the strong arm of the law to remain in such conditions until that death ensues, which is the inevitable consequence, knows that these thousands of victims must perish and yet permits these conditions to remain, its deed is murder, just as surely as the deed of the single individual, disguised, malicious murder, murder against which none can defend himself, which does not seem what it is because no man sees the murderer, because the death of the victim seems a natural one, since the offense is more one of omission than of commission, but murder it remains. We call this kind of death by structural inequality social murder. And in this sense, capitalists and politicians in the USA, like Joe Biden, the complicit federal government, and indeed the police prison industrial complex which Biden seeks to give more money to, are all guilty of social murder at the scale of mass genocide. But you don't think of it this way, because the media doesn't run alarmist stories every single day about the countless deaths caused by pollution and poverty. And
I'm gonna agree with one point here, specifically with the concept of, like, think about it this way. Okay, I'll reframe it. I'm just repurposing what he said. Think about it this way. He is so willing, and by the way, to bipartisan applause, he's willing to invest more money into the police, right? So when people bring up the idea of, like, hey, you know what? Damn, maybe we should have, I don't know, like healthcare. Maybe we should prioritize things that actually benefit the American people, like healthcare, like education, like I'm just throwing this out there, housing, and obviously things that are vitally important, and this is true, food. All of a sudden, that goes out the window. None of that's even being brought up. Which is pretty depressing, to be quite frank. Like, we're so willing, or our government is so willing to have bipartisan applause to increasing to increasing funds for police, which I don't think he can, to be quite honest. I don't know if the federal government has any unilateral ability to fund police. I think that's more of a state thing, but whatever. The point is, he was calling for it. The point is, he was calling for it, and instead of calling for something that, well, Congress can do, which is attempt to move in the direction of giving American people the basic necessities to have some kind of dignified baseline. This is just all so bizarro. This is all so bizarro world to me. It's all backwards. We're willing to give, or we're willing to call for the extension of police budgets to the tune of billions, probably. We're willing to call for the extension of military budgets to the tune of tens of billions. We're willing to fund literally anything and everything, but we're literally willing to give these massive corporations passes, free passes to the tune of trillions in long term. We're willing to allow the wealthy to dictate, the rules, and we can't have a single discussion about what would make this place better by giving people Food, housing, education, and healthcare. We can't talk about that. We can't have a single resolution, a single call for even acknowledging this. Not a one. Right, and then we get the how are we going to pay for it argument, which is like beyond dead at this point. Beyond dead.
Never see coverage on the news about the massive theft from working people committed by capitalist employers and banks.
Well, I will say this. There are more and more articles coming out about the realities of climate change. There are more articles coming out about the realities of pollution and what these corporations are doing. There are, it's just not plastered in the front page. Unfortunately. The unionization efforts that have been going on across the country, that hasn't stopped. There are more Starbucks stores that are currently about to have a vote too. What about the Bessemer Amazon warehouse that's about to have another, they're scheduling another election for unionization.
You are conditioned to see what the police call crime and trained to ignore the suffering and death caused by the police themselves and the capitalist class which they serve.
Welcome to Manhattan.
Trying to sell me pizza? Okay, this might actually be accurate. One of the finally, but people fear socialism because people fear socialism because they believe it leads to authoritarianism. No one fears the police and military spending that would lead to that. Yeah, it's so bizarre. Like, I've had fights like this or arguments like this all the time. Like, if you don't understand the concept of like what it means to have like agency over your production, right? I mean, like, seems pretty case closed to me that if you are the one that are working and producing, shouldn't you reap then the shouldn't then you reap Shouldn't then you reap the fruits of your own labor at that point? You're the one that's doing it. Seems like just as a baseline that makes sense. That's right, Siscat. Oh, sorry.
Crime is on the rise, and because the capitalist media is happy to support this narrative and present everything the cops say is fact, the public at large has a wildly exaggerated perception of crime. We think there's way more crime than there really is. Even what we generally think of as crime is heavily exacerbated by economic inequality. Drug use and homicide rates are both heavily correlated with inequality in rich countries. It should also come as no surprise that caging people in jails and prisons is more common in richer and more unequal countries, as well as in richer and more unequal states within the USA. Cops use their massive budgets to build invasive fascistic surveillance programs to crush social, economic, labor, and racial justice movements, and they've done so all the way back to the beginning of policing. I talk about this extensively in my 3-part series on why we should defund the police, so give that a watch if you want to learn more about that. And it's just obvious that increasing police funding leads to more harm than good and does nothing to solve the problems of harm facing our communities, which we must address, don't get me wrong. But what are the solutions that might actually solve these problems? The cops have done.
Well, I will agree with that. I will agree with the concept of like, these problems all have roots. These problems all have roots. Crime, majority of it, all has socioeconomic roots. The most of it. I mean, like, especially like the petty stuff, right? That you don't need to jail people for every little thing. But instead, ask yourselves, why? Why? Why are they being led this way? And then you say, okay, well, if there's a lot of socioeconomic problems and you attempt to alleviate those, then you will see a reduction in crime, period. You want to tackle crime? You want to be tough on crime? You want to get those numbers, real numbers, actually low? Solve the roots of this problem. Solve the roots of this problem. Alleviate the socioeconomic circumstances that perpetuate this. That's being tough on crime. That's how you get tough on crime.
Done nothing. In over a century, they've done nothing but cause more harm than benefit? Well, it's pretty simple. Public safety is important, like I said, but cops don't really contribute to public safety. And they do a lot more harm to the public, especially black people and people of color. They make us less safe in the USA. So what does improve public safety? Well, overthrowing capitalism would be nice, but in the meantime, we could try, I don't know, investing in our communities instead of the fascist cops, providing people with housing, food, healthcare, clothing, and education, making clean and safe spaces for children and adults, providing access to public transportation, offering mental
How does he do it, chat? Damn.
healthcare and other forms of social support. These are all ways that are proven to increase public safety, save lives, and reduce harm in our communities. Much better than the pseudoscience of policing models that have done nothing to save our communities from harm and do nothing to stop the people who are doing the most harm, namely employers and capitalists who steal from their employees and who destroy our planet with their negligence. This is why we should all be demanding not just the defunding of the police.
Yeah. That was a good meme.
But also
but that is a obviously valid point. And I think that these are two separate arguments, but I understand. Yeah.
The funding of our communities.
Funding
We
of
should be listening to the
communities.
science,
Yes.
Understanding the problems and doing what it takes to actually reduce harm in our communities, not just buying these dogmatic lines about the cops protecting and serving us when they cause so much harm and don't protect us from the people who do us the most harm. And none of this is going to get done by voting for DNC politicians and foolishly believing that we can push them left.
No, what you have to do is create a bottom-up movement that can, in some cases, where you can. I'm not saying that electoral politics is everything. It shouldn't be everything. The problem is that if you believe that only electoralism is the way to go, you will fail. Okay? If you believe that only a certain party holds all the answers, you will fail. It is a multi-pronged approach where you have to get people on the ground to understand and to move as one, to then sometimes it will trickle into the political scene or into the electoral politics scene. But in the meantime, there are multiple facets or multiple prongs that you can go through to help people. There are mutual aid groups. There are things that you can participate in. But the reality is, only relying on electoral politics is a disaster. It's a recipe for failure because, while it is a tool, if you just think that one politician is going to fix it or one single party is going to fix it, it is you're setting yourself up for failure. That is just a fact. Reality is, electoralism is but a tool. That's it. It's but a tool. And at this point, we should reorganize, and to focus really on local politics. Find out who your city council is. Find out who your state representative is. Find out what your city government is doing. Find out what your city government is doing. Who are they? Who's the person that's in charge of managing the environmental factors? Who in the city is handling the environmental aspects of your local area? It should be like in other countries where voting is just something that you do every once in a year and not a never-ending spectacle. Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point.
The only way to have our demands met is through direct action, community organizing, and dual power building. All topics which I discuss frequently on this channel, like in this video, and this one, and this one. So if you want to learn more about making your community actually safer, subscribe to the channel and check out the sources in the description. And I also recommend you follow Alec Karakatsanis on Twitter, who provided a lot of the info I have presented here, as well as my comrade Big Villainous, who works with the organization Fight Toxic Prisons to shut down jails and prisons across the USA, has participated in cop watch programs, and has a lot to say about this subject. Just please, for Pete's sake, don't for a single second believe that you can push Biden left, because he doesn't care about you or me or anyone else besides the capitalist oligarchs he serves. I'm EJ. This is Non-Compete. Now watch this. This is Cody. Cody used to be a bootlicking liberal. Now, thanks to you, Cody is a dirty commie, Antifa, cop-crushing super soldier, and his social media post history probably has him on several government watch lists. When you support non-compete on Patreon or Camaraderie, you're
Oh my God, it's an
thousands
ad.
of other shit lives like
Jesus Christ. He got me. Not gonna lie. Well, if you want to take a look at this, oh my goodness. Yeah, so like yeah, I agree. It's something that you just do because it's available, and if you have the option, and it is a tool, right? It is a tool. It is a tool that you can use, especially in local politics. I mean, it's just so frustrating because like you can't be disengaged, right? There's no room to be disengaged. You have to be engaged, whether it be if you want to participate in your local X chapter, I don't know, or you know, when it comes to climate change, you can join your local Sunrise Movement chapter. There are lefty organizations that you can join. If not, participate directly. Join or pay attention to when city council movements or meetings are happening. Learn who your city council members are. Find out when those elections are, and things like that. Small things that are within your purview, within your local state or city governments. That is a way that you could potentially affect change. Yeah, exactly. It's like a little it is like a little tool. Yeah, being apathetic is not an option. Being apathetic is not an option. If you live in a red state, good luck. True, I live in a red state. All those local reps say the exact same thing here. Jesus. Yeah, I live in a red state. The only thing that like I can't even tell which one to vote for. You try, and if there isn't really a meaningful, distinct difference, then what you do is attempt to figure out how to rally a representative who can challenge these people if all you're getting is the same shit. But that remains, or join an organization that is rallying behind somebody. I don't know. You just kind of like attempt to do what you can within the tools that you have, within the purview that you can. Otherwise, it's effed. Yeah, we should make schools better. Wow, amazing. No kidding. How? Are you going to invest in education? Are you going to make sure that kids aren't like starving? Are you going to make sure that there's healthcare available? Like, I don't get it. Like, what is the plan here? Unfortunately, that's a lot of blah, 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 especially here in Florida too. It's pretty atrocious. It's pretty atrocious. Like I said, I told this story like over 10,000 times, you know. My best friend's brother, who is basically my brother as well, was literally just ignored at a meeting where, at the time, Governor Scott and Senator Little Marco Rubio, he was attempting to bring awareness to the problems that our wetlands are having, to the problems that our basically depleted Everglades are having, and he was basically looked at as he was basically looking at comic book supervillains, is how he described them. It is how he described their reactions. But you know what he did? He is now working directly in projects directly, working on projects directly, attempting to restore the wetlands here because of his field position and his degree. I really wish I could feel positive, but the thing that blocks all the media is Rupert Murdoch. Well, Among other things, like we can't just blame everything on, like, Fox News, although it is very pernicious. But we could also, there's plenty of blame around to go around, that's for sure. Like two Twitch streamers say Massachusetts is red. No, 89% of Congress people in power are actually liberal. Well, it just depends on what they mean by liberal. Jesus. Well, I don't blame you, Darknet. The British actor announced I'm launching a new campaign to kill Boris Johnson's ruinous green agenda. Thanks, Nigel Farage. Hugh Grant has told Nigel Farage to go F himself in a response to his campaign for a net zero referendum. Oh, I'm sorry, folks. We demand a referendum on net zero. He posted a screenshot for the states details on the campaign named Britain Means Business when he found, which he founded alongside means along his Leave co-founder Richard Tice. What? The campaign expanded flagship green policy. What flagship green policy? Can somebody explain this to me? Ruinous green agenda. Okay. Yeah, screw this guy. F this guy. Farage is trying to make a Brexit-style wedge in the UK environmental, possibly. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Isn't he like a very, very far-right person? Or like extremely conservative person? I forget like on the spectrum where Nigel Farage falls in, but he's definitely on my radar as to one of those people who are like crossing that line of like far-right. I wouldn't be surprised if you're trying to torpedo an environmental movement, whatever that means, because like, let's be honest, Boris Johnson isn't exactly in any rush to make any environmental policies happen in the first place. I haven't seen any legitimate, like, except for some words, I don't see England or Britain, I guess, move into any meaningful environmental policies. As far as I know, I think even Germany is probably doing more. They are going to revamp their renewables because of this, international situation. Basically, get rid of fossil fuels. Farage has now lost his Putin money after he's gotten basically to get rid of fossil fuels, and Farage has now lost his Putin money. He's after getting oil firm cash. Gotcha. The new normal, folks. Thousands of acres near Panama City are torched as Florida Panhandle wildfires continue. With nearly 1,100 homes evacuated, firefighting crews continue to battle several dangerous wildfires across 3 counties in the Florida Panhandle. The most prominent blaze, the Bertha Swamp Road Fire, expanded over the weekend remains a threat. The Bertha Swamp Road Fire is approximately 9,000 acres and about 10% contained, so as you go out and look at that, it's a... What? It's a big boy and raging very quickly. Oh, it's DeSantis. Oh. Today is a perfect day for these type of fires to move, unfortunately, and if you have very dry conditions, you have a lot of wind. Yeah, damn, Governor DeSantis. I wonder how that could be. I wonder what is causing these very dry circumstances. There's no singular one-size-fits-all. If achieving something requires an acute sense of your environment and what you're looking to do, if you believe politicians are corrupt and you believe that they're not ideologically aligned to you, then it's, pretty silly to term in a meeting expecting to listen to you. Yeah, but I still think that you have to, like, at least voice, because, like, if not, they just assume that, you know, then it just continues, right? There's no opposition. So I don't know. I know it seems kind of fruitless, but something has to happen, right? Maybe. And I do agree that there is no one-size-fits-all. It's a multi-pronged thing. I know it's a multi-pronged project, that's for sure. DeSantis expanded a state of emergency Saturday to include all 3 counties. Right now, the main focus is, of course, getting the fire contained, but as we are marshaling assets and we will provide whatever the folks in Northwest Florida need. There's no timeline as to when residents will be allowed to return to home, according to the release from the Florida Forest Service. Another fire even closer to Panama City, Atkins Avenue fire in Bay County, was 35% contained as of Sunday. Authorities noted fuel in the form of dead trees on the ground and leftover debris from 2018 Hurricane Michael, along with low humidity and strong winds, contributed to the fire's intensity. The Category 5 storm left 2.8 million acres of broken trees uprooted. Yikes. The blowdown timber from Michael makes it very difficult to fight wildfires in our area. Fires that would normally be contained quickly grow rapidly as there's much fuel on the ground. Yeah. Destroying the environmental and the lives, yeah. The situation on the ground remains very dynamic and changes are called for very quickly, Bay County Sheriff Tommy Ford said on Sunday. Yikes. That is... wow. Investigators are working to determine the cause of fire, and a burn ban has been issued for Bay County. There are currently 168 wildfires burning, burning 15,300 acres throughout Florida. It started by someone burning trash. What? Is that real? Because it says we haven't figured out what it was. Maybe there's an update. If you know that, send it to me, Bob Dragon. Send it to me via whispers, please. Welcome to the new normal, folks. Two massive wildfires burned thousands of acres, forced evacuation, Panhandle. The Atkins fire, which was believed to have been started by a homeowner burning trash that got out of control. Jesus Christ. Holy yikes. These people are... what? Beyond ridiculous. Wow. Wow. But then it's just performative. Essentially, how I view is that people have limited resources. If they don't have infinite time, infinite money, and infinite social capital, so they have to pick what avenue works best for their cause. If you want road reform in a res state, you have to go to why go to a politician when you can boycott the local bus company who likely is having dinners with politicians of the area. Alternatively, if your local government is very progressive, then get a petition signed there. Yeah, I mean, I guess it just depends. Yeah, depends on what the tools are available to you in that situation is what you should be doing. Sometimes direct action, sometimes more direct action works. There are all tools. They are all tools that you can use in your toolbox, right? Hey, here's some cool stuff. Florida legislature, back to Florida, man. Lordy. Passes a 15-week abortion ban. DeSantis is expected to approve this legislation, of course. Well, this one, high factuality. I mean, it's all the same, right? Basically the same story. Look at that, Amazon's trying to sell me a watch. I don't need another watch, Amazon. Florida Senate passes 15-week abortion ban, needs the governor's approval. Florida's 15-week abortion ban passed the Senate on Thursday. The Wednesday, Democratic senators made one last effort to add an amendment, creating exceptions for rape, incest, and human trafficking, which failed. Hold on, folks. All right, hold on, folks. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah. Is this on YouTube?
We are fighting a spiritual warfare right now. We are fighting against a Luciferian cabal, a sociopathic, Machiavellian elitist. They want to be our overlords. They see the 99% as useless eaters. And it's time that we rise up and we show them that we have all the damn power. We're not just going to hold the line like the truckers are in Ottawa. We're going to get aggressive. We're going to start taking offices.
Yikes.
And just like Emily and Kimberly, there's some call on your life. If you're being called to run for a school board, a mayorship.
Yeah, they understand. These people are going to try to capture local, state elections.
Office, any place that you can control power, take it.
Jesus
Get
Christ.
that power. Take it back from the sociopaths. Soros is sending him in.
Okay. Lawmakers argue survivor of abuse may need more time to decide on abortion, and a 15-week window may limit their options. Yeah, because that's the whole point. Ultimately, the abortion ban passed on Thursday from 23 to 50, a vote from 23 to 15, and does not include these exceptions or exclusions because, of course, it's the Republican Party. Bill now heads to Governor DeSantis' desk for his signature of approval. Florida law previously allows abortions up to 24 weeks. DeSantis has already signaled that he would sign the bill into law if it passes the Senate, which it seems like it will. It did. So there you go, folks. Just Florida, freest state in the country, huh? Freest state in the country. Don't you feel free? How free are you? Massachusetts also allowed Prop 2.5, what? Which raised all property taxes and still does for over 25 years. Jesus. All right, folks. We're going to try to get through as much as we can on this. Probably free from investment when Trump loses next session. All his money. Well, about that. Yeah. All right. Technical summary of the Working Group 2 assessment report. We did go over all of, I believe, all of the technical summary for the Working Group 1, and we also went over the, I think, pre-release or leaked Working Group 3. But this one is Working Group 2 from the IPCC report. The official completed Working Group 3 will be released next month. So we've got to get into this, and we got to try to make cover as much ground here. This technical summary complements and expands key findings from Working Group 2, contributions of the 6th assessment report presented in the summary for policymakers, and covers literature accepted for publication by 1 of 2021. It provides technical understanding and is developed from key findings of chapters and cross-chapter papers as presented in their executive summaries and integrates across them. The report builds on the Working Group contribution of the 5th assessment report of the IPCC and 3 special reports of the AR6 cycle, providing new knowledge and updates. The 3 special reports are global warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius and IPCC's special report on the impacts of 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels and related global greenhouse has emission pathways and the content of strengthening the global response of the threat of climate change, sustainable development, and efforts to eradicate poverty. Climate change and land, and IPCC special report on climate change, desertification, land degradation, sustainable land management, food security, and greenhouse gas fluxes in terrestrial ecosystems, and the ocean and cryosphere in a changing climate. Special report of the IPCC. The Working Group 2 assessment integrates with the Working Group 1, the physical and science basis, and Working Group 3, mitigation of climate change contributions, as well as contributing to the synthesis report. The contributions of Working Group 2 to the 6th assessment, AR6 of the IPCC summarizes the current understanding of observed climate change impacts on ecosystems, human societies and their cities, settlements, infrastructure, and industrial systems, as well as vulnerabilities and future risks tied to different socioeconomic development pathways. The report is set against the current backdrop of rapid urbanization, biodiversity loss, and a growing and dynamic global human population, significant inequality, and demands for social justice, rapid technological change, continuing poverty, land degradation and food insecurity, and risks from shocks such as pandemics and increasing intense extreme events from ongoing climate change. The report also assesses existing adaptations and their feasibility and limits. Any success of adaptation is dependent on the achieved level of mitigation, the transformation to global and regional sustainability outlined in the Sustainable Development Goals. Accordingly, adaptation is essential for climate-resilient development. Compared to earlier IPCC assessments, this report integrates more strongly across the natural, social, and economic sciences, highlighting the roles of social justice, diverse forms of knowledge such as indigenous knowledge and local knowledge, and reflects the increasingly importance of urgent and immediate action to address the climate risk. Since AR5, the climate action has increased at all levels of governance, including among non-governmental organizations and small and large enterprises and citizens, to international agreements, the UN Framework Convention of Climate Change, Paris Agreement, and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development jointly provided overarching goals for climate action. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted in 2015 by UN member states, sets out 17 sustainable development goals, frames policies for achieving a more sustainable future, and aligns efforts globally to prioritize ending extreme poverty, protect the planet, and promote more peaceful, prosperous, and inclusive societies. Since AR5, several new international conventions have identified climate change adaptation, risk reduction as important global priorities for sustainable development, including the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, the finance-oriented Addis Ababa Action Agenda, and the New Urban Agenda. The Convention on Biological Diversity and its Acai targets recognizes that biodiversity is affected by climate change with negative consequences to human well-being, but biodiversity through ecosystem service contributes to both climate change mitigation and adaptation. True. The technical summary is structured into 5 sections. Section A, Introduction; B, Observed Impacts and Adaptation; C, Projected Impacts and Risk; and D, Contribution of adaptation to solutions; and Section E, Climate Resilient Development. Each section includes several headline statements followed by several bullet points providing details about the underlying assessment. All findings and figures are supported by traceable and underlying reports traceable to the underlying report, indicated by references in curly brackets to relevant sections and chapters and cross-chapter papers. Confidence in key findings of this assessment is communicated through IPCC calibrated uncertainty language. This calibrated language is designed to consistently evaluate and communicate uncertainties that arise from incomplete knowledge due to lack of information or from disagreement about what is known or even knowable. The IPCC calibrated language uses qualitative expressions of confidence based on the robustness of evidence for a finding, and where possible uses quantitative expressions to describe the likelihood of a finding. Each finding is grounded in an evaluation of underlying evidence and agreement. A level of confidence is expressed using 5 qualifiers: very low, low, medium, high, and very high, and typeset in italics such as medium medium confidence. Right, we went over this with the other reports as well. The following terms have been used to indicate the assessed likelihood of an outcome or result: virtually certain, 99 to 100, probability, very likely, 90 to 100, likely, 66 to 100, as well as not, as likely as not, 33 to 66, unlikely, 0 to 33, and very unlikely, 0 to 10, exceptionally unlikely, 0 to 1%. Assessed likelihood is set in italics. Example, very likely. This is consistent with AR5 and the other AR6 reports. Right. The IPCC, key developments since AR5, interdisciplinary climate change assessment, which has played a prominent role in science-society interactions on the climate issues since 1988, has advanced in important ways since AR5. Building on a substantially expanded scientific and technical literature, this AR6 report emphasizes at least 3 broad themes. First, this AR6 has increased focus on risk and solution frameworks. This risk framing can move beyond the limits of single best estimates or most likely outcomes and include high consequence outcomes for which probabilities are low or in some cases unknown. In this report, risk framing for the first time spans all three working groups, include risks for the response to climate change, considers dynamic and cascading consequences, describes with more geographic detail risks to people and ecosystems, and assesses such risks over a range of scenarios. The focus on solutions encompasses interconnections among climate responses, sustainable development and transformations, and the implications for governance across scale within public and private sectors. The assessment therefore includes climate-related decision-making and risk management, climate-resilient development pathways, implementation and evaluation of adaptation, and also limits to adaptation and loss and damage. Specific focal areas reflect context increasingly important for the implementation of responses such as cities. Second, emphasis on social justice, equity, and different forms of expertise have emerged. As climate change impacts and implemented responses increasingly occur, there are heightened awareness of the ways that climate responds and interacts with issues of justice and social progress. In this report, there is expanded attention to inequality in climate vulnerability and responses, the role of power and participation in process of implementation, and unequal and differential impacts in climate justice. The historic focus on scientific literature is also increasingly accompanied by attention to incorporation of indigenous knowledge, local knowledge, and associated scholars. Third, AR6 has a more extensive focus on the role of transformation in meeting societal goals. The objectives of the current coupled. Oh no! Wait! Where are we? Hold on, folks. The current coupled human and natural system is insufficiently resilient and does not meet societal goals of equity, well-being, and ecosystem health, meeting the objectives of the Paris Agreement, sustainable development goals, and other policy statements that require society and the biosphere to move to a new and more resilient state. Key concepts used in this report help illuminate our current situation and potential solutions. These key concepts are useful, organized around the concept of risk, solutions, and transformation. Risk can prompt solutions and transformation. Both solutions and transformation seek to reduce some risks, but may also generate others. Solutions can enable transformation, and transformation can expand the set of feasible solutions into the climate resilient development. True. The following overarching conclusions have been derived from the whole assessment of the working group 2. The magnitude of observed impacts and projected climate risk indicate the scale of decision-making, funding, and investment needed over the next decade of climate-resilient development is to be achieved. Since AR5, climate risks are appearing faster and will get more severe sooner. Impacts cascade through natural and human systems, often compounding with the impacts of other human activities. Feasible integrated mitigation and adaptation solutions can be tailored to specific locations and monitored for their effectiveness, while avoiding conflict with sustainable development objectives and managing risks and trade-offs. High confidence. Available evidence on projected climate risk indicate that opportunities for adaptation to many climate risks will likely become constrained and have reduced effectiveness should 1.5 degrees global warming be exceeded, and that for many locations on Earth, capacity for adaptation is already significantly limited. That's, yeah. There's also that Anthropocene extinction event coming. Yeah. Free from investment, I think with Trump loses the next election. Yeah, I don't know about that. This box provides, risk. In this report, it is defined as potential for adverse consequences for human or ecological systems, recognizing the diversity of values and objectives associated with such system. In context of climate change impacts, risks result from dynamic interactions between climate-related hazards with the exposure and vulnerability of the affected human or ecological system. In the context of climate change responses, risks result from potential for such responses not achieving the intended objectives, or from potential trade-offs or negative side effects. Risk management is defined as plans, actions, strategies, or policies to reduce the likelihood and/or magnitude of adverse potential consequences based on assessed or perceived risks. Vulnerability. Vulnerability is a component of risk, but also important focus independently. Vulnerability in this report is defined as a propensity or predisposition to be adversely affected and encompasses a variety of different concepts and elements, including sensitivity or susceptibility to harm and lack of capacity to cope and adapt. Over the past several decades, approaches to analyzing and assessing vulnerability have evolved. As early as an early emphasis of top-down biophysical evaluation of vulnerability included and often started with exposure to climate hazards and assessing vulnerability. From this starting point, attention to bottom-up social and contextual determinants of vulnerability, which often differ, has emerged, although this approach is incompletely applied to or integrated across contexts. Vulnerability is now widely understood to differ within communities and across societies, also changing through time. In the Working Group 2, AR6 assessment of vulnerability of people and ecosystems encompasses the different approaches that exist within the literature, both critiquing and harmonizing them based on available evidence. In this context, exposure is defined as the presence of people, livelihoods, species, or ecosystems, environmental functions, services and resources, infrastructure, or economical, societal, or cultural assets in places and settings that could be adversely affected. Potentially affected places and settings can be defined geographically as well as more dynamically, for example, through transmission or interconnections through markets or flows of people. Total biosphere collapse, of which the world has not seen for 65 million years. Yeah. Is this the IPCC report that released? Yes. This is the Working Group 2. This is Working Group 2. And this is the technical summary of it. We watched the press conference. And now we're just going to go through the actual 90 plus pages of it. Okay, I think we're gonna, end on this one, so let me finish this one here. Adaptation in this report is defined in human systems as a process of adjustment to actual or expected climate and its effects in order to moderate harm or exploit beneficial opportunities. In natural systems, adaptation is a process of adjusting to actual climate and its effects. Human intervention may facilitate adjustments to expected climate and its effects. Adaptation planning in human systems generally entails a process of iterative risk management. Different types of adaptation have been distinguished, including an anticipatory versus reactive, autonomous versus planned, incremental versus transformational adaptation. Adaptation is often seen as having 5 general stages: awareness, assessment, planning, implementation, and monitoring and evaluation. Government, non-government, and private actors have adopted a wide variety of specific approaches to adaptation that, to varying degrees, addresses these 5 general stages. Adaptation in natural systems include autonomous adjustments through ecological and evolutionary processes. It also involves using the use of nature through ecosystem-based adaptation, the role of species, biodiversity, and ecosystems in such adaptation options can range from rehabilitation or restoration of ecosystems, something we've talked about, wetlands or mangroves, to hybrid combinations of green and gray infrastructure. Example would be horizontal levees. Working Group 2, AR6 emphasizes assessment of observed adaptation-related responses to climate change, governance and decision-making in adaptation, and the role of adaptation in reducing key risks and global scale reasons for concerns as well as limits to such adaptation. Yeah. I read a few summaries of it and I'm just left with a super inflated sense of doomerism. Well, I don't blame you. Okay, folks, I think this is good here. We are on page 7, so let me remember that, make a note of that. Page 7. I just started watching the press conference because I missed it on the stream. Why does a press conference need a moderator? I don't know. We watched the press conference. And now we're going over the technical report. Look at what's happening to the oceans. The entire food system is collapsing. The food chain system, yes. That is the ocean which I think we've like mentioned very extensively, is key. It is huge, and it seems like we've done it. We really have done it. We really have done it this time. It don't look good. I don't know to what extent we're effed, but yeah. Yeah, and once that goes, oh boy. If once that goes, it's billions of people. Yeah. Yeah, that's also a good point. The insects, which also play a huge part, are disappearing. All of that will begin or have begun at one domino that has been kind of set off probably decades ago. But we have that one domino that is set off, and it's slowly reaching across until it all finally it collapses. Yeah, cool, great job, awesome job, humans. We did it, folks. We have single-handedly caused a worldwide extinction event. Single-handedly, look at that. We did it, folks. All by ourselves. Truly a tough pill to swallow, yeah? Alright, folks, unfortunately, I do have to get going. There are some matters that I must attend to, before I log into work, so I do apologize for the few minutes that I have to cut. I do appreciate that. Thank you for being honest on this Doomer Day. Trust me, there's we haven't even gotten to the nitty-gritty. Fu Manchu, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. We haven't even gotten into the nitty-gritty. We have one more cute animal video, but I do not have time for that. But tomorrow we will have a double feature of cute animal videos. How about that, folks? A double feature of cute animal videos tomorrow to make up for this. Just remember that that life is just a ride and we're all in this together. Yeah, that's... Shoot. Yeah. Please get well soon. Thank you, I appreciate that. We'll try to recuperate. Alright, folks. Thank you so much for all the support and hanging out with us. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. Love you all and hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. Thanks, Darknet. Thanks, Spread It Forward. Thanks, Heat. Appreciate it. Oh no, Dan Simpson. Oh man. Dan, you come in here at the last second as we were going to... Can you imagine how awkward would it be if we raided into Dan's stream and then they're trying to raid in our stream? Can you imagine? First of all, thank you. Glass Time, how's it going? Thank you. Yeah, I gotta stream more, I wish. Can you imagine if we just crossed raids? But I guess it works out better this way because then all of you folks can stick with us and we'll just carry the raid wave over to somewhere else. Can you imagine? I do appreciate that. Thank you so much, Dan Simpson. If you haven't checked them out, please do so. Dan Simpson. Thank you so much for the raid. On your way out, just hit the follow button and just join us tomorrow. Sorry about that, folks. But nonetheless, just hang tight with us and we'll continue the raid wave. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's just continue the raid wave. Sorry about that, folks. See ya. Great, now I don't know who to raid. Wait, is it Chap on? You must never cross the stream, true. Is it Chap? No. Hey. Real Mama Eagle? I don't know who they are, though. Well. Gremlo? They just started? Who? Yeah, let's just raid some Fortnite streamer. Wait, who just started? Black female gamer? Okay, I mean... I don't see... Oh, Tina. Okay, I was looking for her, but she didn't come up. I was looking for her, but she didn't come up. Oh, there she is. Yeah, let's just hang tight, everybody. All right, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya. Thanks for being here in this difficult time, folks. Hang tight, everybody. Bye.